Welcome back to a very full and exciting day of the MBA in Europe showcase. Now, how will the MBA change you? Are you ready to embrace a transformative year of both personal and professional development? Well, to reflect on that change, I'm sitting down with Emily Brierley. Emily is the head of MBA Admissions at Cambridge Judge Business School to discuss how more than 800 years of history and of course the latest business skills are going to help you to develop as an agile, empathetic and collaborative leader. And we're joined by Mansa Shroff, who is from the Judge MBA class of 2023, a Wisconsin graduate microbiologist turned digital health leader who, in her own words, studied, dined and partied alongside a cohort of diverse backgrounds at Cambridge that truly expanded her mind. It's lovely to have both of you with us. You've set the bar very high, but perhaps, Emily, you can just get us started as we think about, our viewers from all over the world thinking about their next steps, some of the compelling reasons that they should choose a top UK, European MBA in today's global business environment.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matt. Yeah, really great question. There are many myriad compelling reasons why you should think about Europe as a destination to study your MBA. So I think just starting with the cohorts themselves, they are incredibly international. So at Cambridge, for example, we're 94% international and there are 49 nationalities represented in that class. So that really enables our students to get a global perspective, a diversity of views and experiences. And that really leads into kind of their, professional and personal development and even further into their career. So, learning to work across geographic regions allows for greater flexibility in your career in the long term. But it also allows you to, become more agile, being able to work with, cross-cultural and global teams. And this is something that we know that companies really value. So having international experience in your CV, whether that's studying and later on working, it's a real plus. Our students go all over the world after the MBA, and we get such great feedback from companies who, always say how well they collaborate with global teams. And, studying overseas, it also then prepares you to go out and work in a country that perhaps you've never worked in before. So, putting yourself, outside of your comfort zone, that's where you get that personal growth. And then thinking specifically about careers and post-MBA, there are depth and breadth of opportunities in Europe and the UK. So meaning students have a lot of options to look at when they finish the program. And if we think specifically about the UK, there's also an extra kind of layer of flexibility and security in the post-study work visa. So that allows you to stay in the UK for 2 years afterwards and, gives that security that, you've got that visa and you can look for work and, find the right, job for you. And then just thinking about, the different industries and, sectors, the exposure to the different businesses and organizations that you'll have in Europe and, working with world leaders in sectors. So Cambridge is very well known for tech. And, we have companies like Arm, we have Darktrace, which is, a world leader in cybersecurity, AI. And on the Cambridge MBA, you get to do quite a lot of projects. So, you'll get the opportunity to work with, some of these companies and get that experience on your CV. And that's really valuable if you're someone that wants to pivot, make a change and get real world experience, which you're going to be able to draw on later in interviews. But also, I think about exploring niche industries. Europe's a really great place for this. So motorsports in the UK, we had a group of students do a GCP with Formula One. Perhaps you're interested in fashion, so London, the ateliers in Paris, Milan. Even if you don't want to go into these areas afterwards, an MBA is a really great playground to try something new and experiment. And you can get that experience of a corporate role in a non-corporate environment. And if nothing else, it's just going to add to your skill set and your professional development. And one final thing that I did want to say, which perhaps isn't talked about enough, but I think is a really wonderful thing about doing your MBA in Europe is the collaborative nature of European business schools. So when you come as a Cambridge MBA, yes, you'll have your peers at the school, but you're going to get the opportunity to attend events and conferences with MBA students at other schools. So MBAT in HAC every year, LBS hosts the You're Out conference, and actually Oxbridge, so Oxford and Cambridge, do consultancy careers events together as well in London. So that opportunity to expand your network as well beyond just your cohort is really valuable.
Well, I think you've done such a good job. We're done, right, man? So we've had everything. No, I mean, the dizzy array of choices, and we mustn't forget biotech and, of course, med and health tech. Mansa, for you, you'd studied at Madison, this sort of picture postcard US college town. Um, and Emily talked about coming out of your comfort zone, already enjoying a successful career. What was it that persuaded you to head to Europe, to head to the UK over other international options that perhaps you'd considered?
Yeah, thank you, man. That's a great question. So for me personally, because I'd spent 6 years in the US, I was looking for something that would give me a holistic experience over label. So I was looking at ecosystems, and for someone coming from a strong STEM background, I was looking for an experience outside of just the business school, and Cambridge definitely delivered on that. So we have the Judge Business School, which is housed within all of the 31 colleges, where we have cross-pollination of ideas and people and showcase events and the opportunity to just meet people outside of your academic background. So for someone with my STEM microbiology background to sit with people from finance or philosophy or political science was really enriching, and that's what I was looking for. Something that Emily touched upon previously was the idea and the strong connection between Oxbridge. You're now not only a part of Cambridge, you're part of two legacy universities that run across the world. So even through my travels in the US, now currently in Mumbai, and my future travels in Latin America, I see that the Oxbridge chapter persists, right? So I always feel like I have a family, even though I've never met these people. So I'm always welcomed in these different ecosystems. And I know that is true for a lot of Ivy League US universities, but Oxbridge is a long legacy chapter, so being a part of something like that is very rewarding. The other thing for me was cost. I think the US universities are on the higher end because they're obviously a 2-year program. Even when you're full-time, you're committed to those 2 years being on campus. Yes, you can get your summer opportunities, and yes, you can take, your internships. But I was looking for something more fast-paced, and UK, Europe offered that precisely under 10 months or a year, which is what I was looking for since I've been in the industry for 6 years, and I didn't want to take a longer gap than that. So cost and time definitely played a key role for me as well.
You mentioned people and ideas, Mansa. The idea of not just who you might be sitting next to in the MBA classroom, but you're also then part of the wider university. So perhaps at dinner, that's where the philosophers or the astrophysicists might show up, right?
Yes. And I think that's, what makes the whole MBA experience really enriching. So I remember I was sitting next to someone at one of the, formal dining halls, which is, as it sounds, a formal dining hall, wearing a gown, pretty much like Harry Potter, and you have to be dining, and you're dining with people who may not even be your MBA classmates, right? Because you're then a part of an individual college out of the 31 colleges. So for me, it was King's College, which is very well known for entrepreneurship, which is specifically why I picked it. And one of my fondest memories is I was dressed in a masquerade. So it was a masquerade theme ball. And so we had to wear gowns and have our masks on. And I was talking to this person, and she was telling me about her experience in archery. And I thought, okay, archery seems interesting. Maybe I should go try it out. Long story short, I did archery for 8 months during my MBA, and I'd never picked a bow and an arrow before. So, it just goes to show that one conversation can get you an introduction to a venture capitalist because you're sitting across from him or her, or you're sitting next to a Nobel laureate who kind of designed the next RNA molecule, or you just get to pick a new sport which you've never tried in your life, and you find a new friend along the way. So I think there's a range of enriching experience that you get through these formal dining halls as well.
I think beyond the masks, there might be a metaphor for archery in terms of your aim is true. I'm not sure, but clearly we're going to be following your career to see how that plays out. Emily, Mansa was talking about cost, inevitably, and both financially and the investment in time. Many of the European MBAs are shorter than their US counterparts. So I suppose also my question is, how do you fit everything in? How do you deliver the learning and the networking in just 1 year?
Yeah, no, really good question. And I'm sure as Mansa will attest to this, it's an incredibly busy and intensive year. So I would say that you do have to go into it with your eyes open, like you kind of need to know what you're signing up for. But, it's going to give you the opportunity to pivot if that's, what your longer term goal very, very quickly and launch your new career. So I do find that the kind of profile of students that, the one-year programs appeal to, our students tend to have a bit more work experience. The average number of years work experience sits around 6 in every cohort. And, that they want to make a change. They want to make it quickly. They don't want to be out of the workforce for 2 years. They don't want to be not earning income for 2 years or paying tuition fees or living costs. So I would, suggest to candidates, considering both, early on doing their research. It really is just about finding the right fit for you and also thinking about the people that you'll be learning from as well. So as I mentioned, our students have a bit more work experience, basically about finding your cohort, finding your tribe. But, we are essentially almost taking a 2-year MBA and squeezing it into a year. But I think a big misconception with the 1-year MBAs, a lot of students are concerned that they can't do an internship on a 1-year program, but they absolutely can, or at least on the Cambridge MBA you can. This is something that they can choose to do in their summer term. They'll do an internship or work placement with a company for 8 to 10 weeks. But we also then have the projects that our students do throughout the year as well. So they're engaging with companies, they're working on real projects, addressing real challenges that companies are facing. So they're getting that experiential learning and they're applying what they're learning and having those touch points throughout the year. So yes, it will be busy and it will be intensive. But, within a year, you're going to be able to kind of, launch and go off and start that new career. And I will just say it is totally doable to do a triple jump in a year. I think last year, 43% of our cohort did a triple jump. And that is incredibly challenging to do, and they did it all within the space of a year. So it's really finding what works best for you and your post MBA career goals, I'd say.
Right. I mean, in terms of ROI, Mansa, inevitably there's the focus on the financial investment of the ROI, but are there less tangible returns, even just in terms of self-confidence, this extraordinary network that you're developing and opening up new doors and new opportunities?
Yeah. So I think as MBA students, since we think about finance a lot, we think of ROI in terms of monetary, right? And obviously the MBA gives you a great jump, as Emily pointed out. You can do a 3-level jump. For me, it was just getting a higher position, which is what I was looking for within my industry. Now, I've been in healthcare for 6 years, and I now, through my MBA experience, I'm able to lead global partnerships. Even my role right now, I am leading partnerships between Colombia and Latin America and India, particularly focused on vaccines. I also support venture capital and venture building firms in San Francisco, specifically focused on digital health. So to summarize, I think the MBA gives you that financial jump in your career. It could be through salary, it could be through title change, and also through the network. The other ROI, which obviously is not as tangible, but very meaningful, is the network you get. And I don't mean network in terms of just your professional contacts. Yes, I think the alumni network with Cambridge is wide, it's global, it's warm. For me, and Emily can contest to this, before my MBA, I did a lot of diligence to understand where I would be placed, how well would I fit in. And for me, one of the reasons to pick Cambridge was because it's a Silicon Fen of the UK, and I knew my healthcare passion and my understanding of healthcare would allow me to add value to the ecosystem and also take something from it that I can take through my career. What was really helpful there was the alumni network. I spoke to a lot of people to understand how their experience was, not just in healthcare, in different walks of life, to see, if you're a mother, if you're, over 40, or if you're just 25, how has the MBA helped you? And that kind of allowed me to see that this network, this alumni extensive network that I can fall back to, will be a place for me. And, I hope to kind of pay that way forward. And something I kind of go back to each time I speak to a prospective student is, your network is your net worth, right? Because that is what enables you to grow in your life. So that's the professional part of the network. I'll talk a little bit more about the personal part of the network. I've had some amazing friendships in the past 10 months, which I was so happy to see in May when I graduated. And it just feels like you have someone who knows you in those 10 months, somewhere around the world, right? So if you're traveling to the US, you have some place where you can crash. You have a friend, friend's partner who'll host you. Their family knows you now because, you video call all the time. In short, I think it just feels that you've made these very deep friendship, although it seems like a short amount of time. The 10-month forces us to be amongst each other all the time. So I think one of the things Emily pointed out earlier is you find your tribe through the process of the MBA, which I think I did. And I'm really grateful that, Emily and her team and the other professors picked such an amazing cohort, because I not only learned from my classmates, but I'm also learning from my classmates who are now my friends. So there's a different nuance, when it comes to these kind of networking friendships that come out of it. So that's the kind of ROI I think about.
Right. I mean, Emily, finding your tribe, and you mentioned 94% international students in the program, and there's Mansa working in projects in Colombia, investors in San Francisco. The idea of that international and in industry diversity, right? You can measure it on so many different levels. How does that shape the learning experience? You've got very smart professors at the front of the classroom, but no doubt so much of the learning and then the ability to stay at a friend's place when you're on the road, that must have so much impact.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a really valuable to be part of such a global and diverse cohort, and also diverse in terms of industries and sectors, that students are coming from as well. I would say that lectures, they're not really lectures, they're discussions, and it enables students to contribute their own experience of what is being discussed in class. So, having a global cohort, exposes you to a diverse range of perspectives and views, but it also allows you to challenge, your own assumptions, which I think is a key part of, personal growth. It provides a better foundation of understanding, where perhaps culturally someone might be coming from. And that's really important because we're preparing our students to, go out into the workplace and work with global teams, and be able to communicate and understand perhaps where people are coming from, or even just working in, global offices around the world. We do, what I would say is we do make a conscious effort to ensure that each student gets to work with people from a range of different backgrounds and regions. And this is through the study groups that we put together, the streams, the project groups. So in each study group, these are engineered and, we want to ensure that there's representation from the different sectors, regions, etc., gender balance. And then also these are mixed up each term as well. So you're not just working with the same peers. You get the opportunity to get to know, a broad spectrum of your cohort and work with people, because, everyone works differently and there's something new to be learned from each individual student. And then I would just say, the faculty, are very international themselves. So they are going to bring their own experiences from different regions around the world to the classroom to add to that discussion.
Well, perhaps, Mansa, you never knew that a boat race on the river would have so much importance, and you may have even, understood British sense of humor. But studying in the UK, how do you feel that it's going to influence your longer-term global mindset, lifestyle choices, and just the path and choices that you'll make?
Yeah, I spent 6 years in the US where I understood what hustle culture means. You have to hustle, hustle, hustle to get there, which when I came to the UK, I was taken aback. There was hustle in the business school because typically you have a mix of, introverts and extroverts, and the extroverts try to be more hustle, more type A. But outside of the Judge Business School, I have realized there was so many moments when I had to take a step back and just live through the communities and the spaces. What I mean to say is, there was time to reflect on how I wanted my 10 months in the UK to look like. I spent time cultivating deep, meaningful relations, not only with friends, but also with professors or with mentors who I'm still in touch with. And I think that really adds value to my career because it's an enriching experience. Outside of that, I think the UK does allow you to kind of think a little bit bigger on what community space and pace turns out to be. So as Emily pointed out, they definitely did a fantastic job of engineering a lot of the student groups. So for me, one of my very fond memories is a first term, we have this group project called CVP. And it was so well engineered that we had great gender diversity. We had amazing industrial diversity as well. And I learned so much through that process because I was put in a group with someone who was a British accountant, an Indonesian consultant, a Peruvian banker, and a Taiwanese influencer. And here I am, an Indian pharma professional. We were all working on a windmill project. So it just kind of teaches you so much about how you work across different cultures, what communication is required, not only to have the process in place, but also the result. What it means to be culturally divergent and to be able to understand the pace at which each person understands and accepts feedback. And that came across through different classes for us as well. So we had the CVP project, we've had a negotiations class, which helped us fine-tune these skills. And, I think in terms of the ROI that you previously asked me about, these are the softer skills. These are very nuanced that maybe not everyone uses in my cohort, but for someone like me who's in a global partnerships role, this is a part of my day-to-day conversation. This makes or breaks a lot of the deals, a lot of the clients that I bring on board, especially because I'm, working across a Latin American culture and an Indian culture, which are starkly different. And the last thing I want to say about UK is, I see the difference. I see the difference working in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is known for its healthcare, known for its robust, energetic, hustle, risk appetite culture. And then I see the Cambridge, UK, that is has a global strategy. It has a local community, but a global mindset where it kind of connects these different communities. It's slow paced. It enables you to reflect while allowing you to choose what you want to reflect on. So that for me, that reflection came through my projects and my conversations at the Judge Business School, which were obviously more business focused, and from King's College in the Entrepreneurship Lab, which were also very entrepreneurship focused. So I think that for me was a very interesting and enriching experience in the UK.
Right. Self-reflection, Emily, is integral to applying to Cambridge Judge and the MBA program. And Mansa was just describing, this extraordinary wealth of experience, so sort of 6 years here, pharma, you've got everything, bringing it all together and crafting that diversity. One of our viewers has said, well, I've been at 9 years as in the military and just asking how can they stand out in their pool? Is there sort of just a simple reflection that you like candidates to think about, whatever their industry and background, of how they can most authentically share their experience and accomplishments?
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's creating that space. It's exactly like Mansa said, creating that time to reflect, and leaving enough time to really think about each application, because each school you're applying to, it will be slightly different. But yeah, just stepping back and thinking about where you've gone, where are you now, and where do you want to go? Where do you want to go next? It's really about getting your narrative and your story down in a compelling way, because there are a lot of similarities across the board, but then everyone has a unique story to tell. And I would say, most importantly, take the time. I speak to so many candidates that have applied and they've really enjoyed the reflective process. We're all so busy, we don't get time to stop and do that. And it's a really kind of internal process as well. So do give each one the time and reflect on each one. I think that's really, really important. And they really enjoyed that experience as well.
Anything unexpected, positive, challenging, Mansa, as you think back over that year? It's like, with all of the things that I was expecting, this just took me back and it was amazing.
I think positively, what has kind of left an impact on me is just, I still can't believe I walked on the same road as Einstein and Alan Turing and Jawaharlal Nehru, who obviously holds a very prestigious spot for Indians, or, writers like Sylvia Plath. I think it just feels unreal because you're sitting and grabbing a beer in a bar where DNA's double helix was announced, and it's complete healthcare geek. That was one of the things I shared with everyone that I met. I was like, I actually sat there, I've seen it. I've seen the placard. So that was definitely something positively that I took in my stride. I think negatively, UK has its own cons with its weather. It's something not a lot of people are okay to adjust with. But, I stayed in Wisconsin, I stayed in Boston. So UK was summer for me all year round. So, and I think the campus is beautiful. Every college has its own space. Every college has its own persona. And I don't know how many, I think every alumni or every student that passes out of Cambridge feels that, because when you go to a Queen's college, it looks very different than when you pass Emma or Peterhouse, because each college I feel is a family. It's something that has been built from scratch and kept the way that it's kept. And I think the students and the alumni try to maintain that legacy. So I think that's something I carry with me in my memories now that I'm so far away from Cambridge.
So Mansa had to pinch herself, Emily, to say, well, I can't believe that I'm walking or sitting here where something of this momentous event happened. At both the personal level for you, maybe there's a place that you love to go. But when you describe Cambridge and the Judge Business School to others, something that you feel is so uniquely Judge, but culturally, philosophical, what do you often share?
Yeah, I mean, you really can't talk about Cambridge Judge without the Cambridge. And I think something that really, really stood out to me that Mansa said earlier was about this, cross-pollination, this being part of this legacy university. It's this holistic experience. Okay, so you are not just an MBA at Cambridge Judge Business School, and you're not just a student at the University of Cambridge, and you're not just a member of one of the 31 colleges. You're not just working on academics, the curriculum, gaining that knowledge. You're not just doing projects and the experiential element as well. It is all those things, Mansa was a member of King. She got involved with the entrepreneurship lab there, the opportunity to meet students at your college studying, across the different disciplines at the university, which kind of just opens you up to so many new areas of research or, subjects that perhaps you've not come across before. And I think on the program, they all hold the same importance, and we're doing them at the same time and offer to each of them the same value, and underlying, we're maintaining that ethos of excellence and learning at the front of everything we do. And then the networks that come out of that, like Mansa was talking about earlier, you're not just a Cambridge Judge MBA alum, you're a college alum, and you're a University of Cambridge alum and an Oxbridge alum. So, wherever you go around the world, you're going to have those connections. So I think it's this holistic experience, it's a transformative experience, a life-changing experience. And I think that's uniquely Cambridge and Cambridge Judge.
Well, of course, it makes such sense to you, Mansa, now, and just to see the smile and the energy and vibrancy with which you described the Judge MBA experience. But let's go back. My final question, going back 2-3 years, you were thinking about the right next steps for you. So our viewers, whether they're with us live today or they're following this on YouTube, that will be reaching out to Emily and her team, advice that you'd have for any prospective student about taking that step, investing in yourself, and of course, choosing a school like Cambridge Judge?
Yeah, I was there 3 years ago, and while I was deciding what would be appropriate for me, and that's specifically the question that I asked a lot of the alumni when I reached out to them. And the resounding kind of answers were, understand your deal breakers. What is it that you are up against? And for some people, it may be finance. For some people, it could be duration. For some people, they want to find a place in the US or in Europe. Then find those kind of colleges. Find something that gives you meaning to your career. Also ask yourself, would you want to be in a standalone business college? I was considering London Business School as well, and it has a great extensive network. But for me, Cambridge came out because it has the university blended well with the business school, which spoke a lot higher to me than the other European universities. So I think those are the kind of questions that were really important from a objective standpoint. I think from a subjective standpoint, and try to put it as simply as possible to a lot of prospective students, it's like, beyond your classroom, who do you want around your dinner table? Do you want people who are consultants? Do you want people who are looking at, fundraising and VCs? Do you want a pure finance friend circle? Do you want people from diverse backgrounds or cultures? Maybe because that's something you're looking to add to your life. And for me, that has been a very, very important takeaway from my Cambridge experience. It's the diversity, it's the relationships and the friendships that I've created for me. It's also the kind of perspectives that I get. Maybe it's not my friends, but it's colleagues that I keep in touch with, not only in the business school, but in King's College, or also in other colleges, through archery or through punting. And you meet people at these formal dinners that are now your LinkedIn friends or Instagram friends, and you follow their lives, and perhaps then your life, crosses at some point in time. And I think that has been really, really important for me as I was making the decision. The last thing I tell a lot of prospective students is, I think every MBA is what you make of it. So for me, the Cambridge MBA was exactly what I made of it, because I went in with the understanding that I wanted to further enrich my experience in healthcare. I found out which of the ecosystems and the cohorts for healthcare were active in Cambridge, within the Judge Business School and the university. And I hustled. I tried to reach out to them. I tried to participate. I tried to actively engage. And I think Emily has pointed this out repeatedly, that it's a short program. It's compressed, it's high intensity, but it's your journey. So you get to design it the way you want. And it does take a lot of introspection, which is where I think Cambridge comes in handy, because it gives you a lot of beautiful spaces to sit and reflect on what you want to do with your 10 months at Cambridge. But, it comes with a lot of good faith and hand-holding, if you wish to have it that way, because there are a lot of people who are willing to help you at every point in time. So all you have to do is ask, including the admissions team, including the professors. And I think that's what made my experience really, really good, and something that I kind of continue to go back to.
Well, finding out more about the program is what the MBA in Europe Showcase was designed for. And both of you, one of our viewers, I'm sure, will be reaching out to you, Emily, and the team to find out more about entrepreneurship through King's College that I just learned about from Mansa. So it will be great to all have dinner together. It's a little early in the day for that, but just to have even spent this time together was incredibly valuable and immensely enjoyable. So Mansa, Emily, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you. This has been such a fun conversation, and I'm so happy that you're putting this together, because I think it's important for prospective students to weigh out their opportunities, their challenges, because it is a commitment. It's a financial commitment, and for a lot of people, it's also a family commitment, because in the MBA, we had families, we had partners, and I forgot to highlight that in my conversation, but I think Cambridge holds a special place for partners and families as well. They have their own communities. So for a lot of MBAs, you feel like you have to leave your life behind. That's not true with the Cambridge MBA. You bring it with you, and the ecosystem will enrich it further. So
we should
I think
always
that's
bring
a very
extra
big thing.
chairs for dinner.
Yes, always.
Great. Well, we'll be back in another 12, 15 minutes for more of the MBA Showcase. Thank you to both of you for joining us for a great session.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Take care.